For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson. Sports commentator and media personality Sage Steele recently made headlines after the announcement was made that she's leaving ESPN in order to exercise her First Amendment rights more freely. Since joining the network back in 2007, Steele's commentary on political and social issues have earned her a fair share of controversy, which ultimately led to her being removed from the air in 2021. Steele recently appeared as a guest on the Megyn Kelly show where she spoke on her own biracial background and how that's affected her career. During the interview, Steele reflected on comments she made on The View about former President Barack Obama and his decision to identify as Black on the census. In regards to that, Steele said,
when you fill out your census, I'm like, well, I don't know when the last time I filled out my census was, but if they make you choose a race, she's like, what are you going to put? I go, well, both. She's like, well, you can't. She goes, well, what if Barack Obama chose Black and he's biracial? Well, congratulations to the president. That's his thing. I go, I think that's fascinating considering his Black dad was nowhere to be found, but his white mom and grandma raised him. But hey, you do you. I'm going to do me.
Now, of course, this comment will receive backlash and Steele has been defending herself ever since. Talking about the resurfaced moment on the Megyn Kelly show, Steele dismisses the verbal abuse she receives for identifying as both Black and white. She reshared a portion of the interview on her own social media with the caption, "For years I've been called a sellout because I identify as biracial or that I'm not Black enough. For all those biracial kids out there, I pray that you don't wait as long as I did to realize you don't have to accept the hypocritical BS. You are perfect the way you are. And please don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Thank you, Megyn Kelly, for allowing me to share this." In response to that tweet, author, activist, and personality Mark Lamont Hill would write, no one has ever called Sage Steele a sellout for this reason. No one. This would ignite a back and forth between the two, with Steele firing back at Hill saying, when people like this have the audacity to speak for others and claim they know what others have experienced, especially people they've never met, never talked to, don't have the decency or courage to reach out and have an actual conversation, these people hate the C word. It is so predictable and frankly, it reveals everything we need to know about their character. Hill would then respond by saying, with all due respect, Sage, you're missing the point. I don't claim to know your experiences. I'm explaining why Black people call you a sellout. It's not because you're biracial, as our community is filled with biracial people. It's because your words and actions are viewed as anti-Black. Hill followed that tweet up by continuing, I'm happy to have a conversation, publicly or privately, but you made a public issue of how the Black community treats biracial people. So it's reasonable for us to respond publicly. This doesn't suggest a lack of decency or courage. Now, the comments were filled with those in agreement with Hill, with one user adding, I'm so tired when biracial people only have smoke for Black people. I cannot imagine a large group of Black people caring that you identify as biracial, especially when you are. Maybe it's how you talk about Black people. Another user would say, ma'am, Negroes been biracial since the beginning of this nation. No one calls you a sellout because you are half Black. Some of the most revolutionary Black people in the world are biracial. People call you a sellout because you're anti-Black and saying this on Megyn. For years, Steele's actions and words have garnered controversy from the Black community, with some even calling her a sellout. But let's look at a few reasons why. To start, Steele will receive backlash after letting former UFC fighter Chael Sonnen touch her hair on live television. After grabbing Steele's hair, Sonnen turned to the camera and told everyone it was real.
He's a really nice guy behind the scenes. I mean, do you have to hate your opponents to win?
Can I touch your hair? Can I feel? I love your hair, by the way.
Random.
It's never happened before, because everybody that's sitting in this
TV
chair
now
is thinking it, I can assure you. That's real hair, people, and it's very soft, I might add.
In addition to this, people didn't like what Steele had to say about sexual harassment in the workplace. In 2021, she said, I've had talks with young women. They're like, oh, would you look at my tape? And I said, listen, I would love to, but the way you present yourself is not something I want to be associated with. So when you dress like that, I'm not saying you deserve the gross comments, but you know what you're doing when you're putting that outfit on too. And then there was a time back in 2016 where she called out Mike Evans for sitting during the national anthem before a game. Evans decided to not stand during the game in order to protest Donald Trump's election win. Hey, Mike Evans, look up the definition of the word democracy and remember this picture while kneeling and exercising your right to protest. Steele said, along with posting a picture from the Arlington National Cemetery. And then there were her comments supporting Candace Owens and going against Jemele Hill in defense of Donald Trump. In regards to Owens, Steele would say, I respect the hell out of Candace Owens because whether you agree or not, she doesn't give a crap what you think, and she's going to say what's on her mind. Isn't it funny, though, that people have to make those comparisons because we happen to have a similar skin color? That cracks me up. When her ESPN peer at the time, Jemele Hill, received backlash for calling then-President Donald Trump a white supremacist and was suspended for it, Steele came to the defense of 45 by saying Hill did it to herself. And it seems even now Hill continues to show her opposing views of Steele's. Just before this recent controversy, in the same interview, Steele would tell a story to Megyn Kelly about the time the late Barbara Walters allegedly assaulted her. Let's take a look.
If I don't ask you about Barbara Walters, she attacked you? Wait, what?
It was right after that segment with the Obama segment. And went in the back. It was Barbara, Whoopi, and myself in the dark green room off to the side, about 4 feet from the wall and the trash can. And Barbara was standing over here in front of me. She just started to back up towards me and looked at me and got close and elbowed me. What did this just do to me? Like, this 140-year-old woman just tried to tackle me. What is happening right now? And some of the producers saw it. Whoopi saw it. And Whoopi was like, come here. And she was great. And she's like, don't you let her do it. And I'm like, am I in a movie right now? One of the legends in this industry just tried to beat me up.
In response, many people were taken aback that Sage would even discuss the matter with Walter not alive to defend herself. Jemele Hill would make several posts about it saying, Ida B. Wells hockey checked me into a trash can. I'm taking that to the grave. Hill would also go on to share a video with the comment, Barbara Walters from the grave probably.
Fuck you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Fuck you, fuck your mama, fuck your daddy, the horse you rode in on, fuck everybody who loves you, who cares about you, who has ever supported you in your life, who has become a part of making you the person that you are today. Fuck you, fuck them, fuck all of y'all.
Now, I think it's noteworthy that Steele had once criticized Hill for exercising her own First Amendment rights. But now that Steele has settled her own lawsuit with Disney and ESPN because she now feels she can no longer exercise those same rights. You know, after looking back at all of this, it makes me think of a few things that I think is important to bring to light. The first is what it means to have a victim mentality. And I bring this up because it reminds me of an article that I read on Healthline about victim mentality that states this. There's one main sign when it comes to it, and that is a lack of accountability. This might involve placing blame elsewhere, making excuses, not taking responsibility, reacting to most life hurdles with the mentality, it's not my fault. And here's the thing, bad things really do happen to people who've done nothing to deserve them. But many situations do involve varying degrees of personal responsibility. Now, I'm not diagnosing Sage Steele with this syndrome, so don't take it that far. However, when you say that you're happy to be biracial, but only make outlandish comments mostly about the community that represents the black side of you, and then say that you're being called a sellout for being biracial, I don't know exactly what to call it, but it is a bit confusing. When we look at the definition of a sellout is a person who betrays a cause or organization, not someone who speaks down on a community and then gets backlash when that community decides to speak up for themselves. And look, I get it. We can't deny that some biracial people struggle with finding a balance between the identities and cultures they embrace while aligning with the sense of who they are as individuals. So Sage, your experiences growing up biracial are real for you. And I'm sure there are some things that I could never understand. However, those experiences don't reflect the narrative of your current relationship with the black community. So I'll end with this. Here's what I think should happen. Just like when you offend other communities, you're required to educate yourself and really learn why your actions and words are considered harmful. And I personally believe Sage should do the same. But what do you guys think about Sage Steele's comments on being called a sellout? Let us know in the comments below. For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson.